Good morning, and thanks for your interest this morning. Just to touch for a moment on the forward-looking statement, which just lays out some of the risks in the mining industry. As we all know, there are many risks around metallurgical recovery, around reserves, and it's very important to take that into consideration when you invest. Our team has been working in Mexico for the last 20 plus years. I've headed these companies. We've raised over $1 billion in the capital markets for our ventures. We've built or restarted four mines. Capital structure, 171 million shares, options and warrants, 180 million, 54 million of US debt. Now you'll notice that's the Bank of Montreal, who we've worked with a lot over the last 15 years, and Agnico Eagle. As part of the recent deal that we announced, they advanced us $7.5 million as a loan until the deal closes. And we have $4.5 million cash. And we will be receiving a check for $80 million US here in the next 60 to 90 days is anticipated. So what do we have in GoGold? It's the Santa Gertrudis project in Sonora, which was just recently purchased by Agnico Eagle, and the Parral Tailings retreatment, which is our operating mine in Chihuahua State. So the Santa Gertrudis deal with the Agnico Eagle, I think it's a real win-win for both companies. What it does for us, of course, $80 million. We now have sold the property to a premier mining company, I think one of the premier major mining companies in the world. They will advance the district size Santa Gertrudis project from here, putting, I'm sure, a lot of capital into exploring. And we'll retain a 2% net smelter royalty. We'll have exposure to some of that upside. They can buy back 1% for another $7.5 million. The project and the history of the project with us, just a real quick history of the project was founded in the mid-80s, developed by Phelps Dodge, produced about 550,000 ounces. They sold it off as non-core to Campbell. Campbell unfortunately went bankrupt in 2000, and the project was shut down. That was due to low gold price. It was in another junior for a better part of a decade, and they really couldn't advance it. We acquired it in April 2014. We, between the acquisition and the drill program, and taking the legacy data and putting it into studies, a new resource study and a PEA, we had invested about $20 million US in the project. And then, of course, did the deal with Agnico 3 years later for $80 million. So I'll talk now about our operating mine, the Parral Tailings project. It's a very large tailings retreatment project in the state of Chihuahua in the municipality of Parral. These tailings are 21 million tons in reserve, good grade, 0.31 gold, and about 40 grams silver for agglomerated heap leach. So the city is our partner. We pay them $50,000 a month. We move these tailings out of the city. You can see the city has kind of grown up around them, to our newly built heap leach facility. We also have some other tailings there which are resourced today. We've drilled them, we've done metallurgical work, and we feel that a lot of those will convert to a reserve in the future. But it's important to note this is not a small project. It's has a 10-year mine life ahead of it, and with other tailings in the area, that could be extended to over 12 years. Now the project's contract mining. We have a local contractor who picks up these tailings, drives them down the highway 14 kilometers. We receive them at the mine, where we agglomerate with cement, and we place them on our heap, where we leach with cyanide, and we recover doré product in our Merle-Crowe. I'll talk about some of the, I guess the first thing to talk about is that we're really, as far as I know, the first people who have, on a large scale, reprocessed tailings with a heap leach. And the reason for the heap leach was because it's a low capex entry. We have about $45 million in capex invested. Low OPEX, the all-in cost per equivalent ounce of silver is under 12 bucks. And as we ramp up, we think it'll go down to about $10 an ounce. That being said, we were the first people who have done this, and on startup, you know, there was a bit of a learning curve there. The lab work that we did, the testing, didn't really scale up as well as a conventional heap leach. And what I mean, pardon me, what I mean by that is that although we achieved the ultimate recovery, it took much longer. And it took, instead of 6 months as anticipated, it took 36 months. So we had a big buildup of inventory in the heap, which we had to finance, $40 million US, and that is a large reason we had the debt in the company. But we've fixed that, and it is now, the heap is back on the schedule it was supposed to be on in the original study. We're getting a recovery curve of about 6 months, and we're now generating positive cash flow. In that process of fixing it, we had to attack a lot of things. We really had to, in the last 6 months, kind of do a reboot in the field. We found that the agglomeration, we needed a lot more cement, 16 kilos versus 10 kilos. Fortunately, in Mexico, cement is pretty inexpensive, so not a big impact on cost. Also, the way we leach it, we hit it very hard with cyanide for the first 45 days. It drives out the soluble copper, which we recover with a SART plant, and we regenerate 80% of our cyanide. And the final thing that we changed, and it was this pad that we just built, and it was kind of by accident, we now cure the material for 2 weeks before we start leaching it, and it made a drastic difference. And we had placed the material out there, and we were building a trench, and it was behind schedule for 2 weeks. So we were forced to just leave this material out there baking in the sun. And when we did turn it on, we saw a drastic difference. So I've talked about the optimization. The other thing we're doing is lower lift height. We're at now a multi-stacked lift. With all this extra cement, we can do that. And here's the real story and the turnaround at Parral. If you notice these curves, the bottom curve, the purple one, is the first 9 pads. And that was the recipe in the feasibility study, how we leached the material. And when we did the reboot over the last 6 months, progressively each pad got better and better as we changed things in the field. And the curve to the far left is our pad 15. And that's really, really performing very well. And that was the last little tweak where we let the material cure in the sun for 2 weeks before we start leaching. And the heap has now reached equilibrium. The last 6 months we stacked 3,800 tons a day on average. And those are the recoverable ounces that we stacked. And the red line is the produced ounces. As we move forward here, and especially with the injection of cash from this deal with Agnico, we will be able to stack 5,000 to 6,000 tons a day over the next 6 months, moving eventually up to about 7,500 tons a day. And the recovered ounces will follow. So really, what is GoGold? I mean, GoGold has been really transformed by this deal here in the last 2 weeks. We have one business model. We go in, we find a district that is underappreciated, that was not recognized. We spend $11 million acquiring it, another $9 million drilling it, and we sell it for $80 million. Not a bad business model, and we will be doing more of that in the future. The other thing is the tailings. We've really developed an expertise there. Not tailings, a lot of people don't consider them a real sexy mining operation, but this will make between $15 and $18 million a year of after-tax free cash flow for over the next decade. And in Mexico, there's more than 100 million tons of tailings that in the past we've looked at that look like they could work in an operation like this. So we're out looking for our next Santa Gertrudis. We have some ideas, and we're producing cash at Parral. and a great balance sheet now with $20 million US in cash and no debt. So thank you, and open to any questions.
Yeah, we've got several minutes for questions, so if anyone in the crowd. Brad, maybe just can you touch on the, I guess, business model you're maybe, I don't know if you're transitioning into or starting to look for more of these, kind of project generator projects to kind of,
Yeah, we've been in Mexico now for 20 years, and we really have a good lay of the land, politically, business-wise, mining industry in Mexico. And, we've had on our radar some projects that I think would not be on a lot of people's radar. We didn't really have the bandwidth over, with the Parral issues and, with a little bit of a stressed balance sheet. But now that we have a very strong balance sheet and we're producing cash, we're going to execute on some of those other opportunities.
And just with your experience in Mexico, is that your preferred jurisdiction, or are you open to other opportunities?
No, we are open to other opportunities, obviously, if they're good opportunities. We see a lot of opportunities in Mexico. It's a great jurisdiction to be working in, and we have a lot of experience there. So.
Brad, thanks very much. Did you investigate treating the leach piles at Santa Gertrudis?
Sorry.
In the same manner that you were treating the piles at Parral.
Okay.
Did you look at Santa, because there's a large amount of tailings there.
Right at Santa Gertrudis, it's the old gold heaps. It was a heap leach, no tailings, but old heaps. We did not work the old heaps in Santa Gertrudis. We were focused on the in situ. We developed 916,000 ounces of in-pit resource, and we saw a big upside in the ounces there. So that was our main focus.
I think I seen a hand over here.
Pardon my technical question. Do you think the longer cure time on I assume it's a concrete that we effectively have, is that creating a better pore space? Was the shorter time crushing and not giving you good throughput?
Yes, it was really around the compaction and permeability. What we found in the other heaps where we had less cement is we would get the recovery, but it would take 36 months. And it was, we think it was the heap would start to compact, and it would just take a long time to get the solution or contact. With the curing, I mean, there's just never any ponding on it. Even in severe rain events, the solution's just going through. A 5-meter heap, we get breakthrough in 36 hours. So it makes those pellets very, very strong, and they stand up.
I believe you said you had a 10-year mine life there at Parral. It's very interesting. I assume this is 200 mesh or something. The tailings are very fine. Is that right?
A little coarser than that. Some of these tailings are 300 years old.
Okay. So. Yeah, much coarser then.
Yeah.
But as you go up, what I've been concerned about is, are you going to be building a lateral pad where you just keep going up and we use an internal liner? Because this model seems to really work well, but it seems even though how much cement you have, you will compact it eventually at the bottom. So
with the way we're doing it right now, and we've done a lot of work with Golder on it, we'll do a 5-meter heap and, of course, multi-stacked, as you mentioned. Most of all of the gold will be out of the bottom heap by the time we put a stack on top. Most of the silver. We do feel we'll continue to get percolation down through the bottom material. Yeah, we think that it will still percolate. The testing says it will percolate. And to give you an idea, the old agglomeration, if you walked out to the heap, you could reach in, you'd take the material out, it was like kitty litter. This stuff, if you went up to the heap and you kicked it, you'd stub your toe. It's that much difference. Really is strong, a real strong agglomerate.
You're going to have a very high heap.
Yeah, we'll have a high heap, and we have permitted a big area for pad expansion. It is a big heap. We have 5 phases to it.